Jake Morrison sat in his chair at the huge round table. The meeting room was massive, with walls made of clear crystal that showed the stars outside. 12 different alien species sat around the table, each one looking very different from the others. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like they were made of living rock. Jake was the only human in the room. He had been Earth's voice on the Galactic Council for 3 years now. Most days the aliens treated him like a child who was allowed to sit with the adults. They would pat him on the head, so to speak, and tell him that humans were still too young to understand big galaxy problems. The meeting today was about trade routes through human space. The aliens wanted to use human star systems as shortcuts to get to their destinations faster. They always did this without asking humans first. Then they would tell Jake about it later, as if humans should be grateful for the honor. Counselor Zethkar, a tall alien with green scales and 4 arms, was speaking. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. The young human species should be happy that we use their space. It brings them into contact with real civilization. The other aliens nodded and made sounds of agreement. The Ashanti delegate, Counselor Yila, was gentler but still treated humans like pets. Perhaps we should send them some of our old textbooks about space travel, she suggested with what might have been kindness. Jake had heard all this before. For 3 years he had sat in this chair and listened to aliens talk about humans like they were not in the room. He had smiled and nodded and played the part of the grateful junior species. Today was different, though. Today everything would change. His communication device buzzed quietly. A message had arrived from Earth, marked with the highest security codes. Jake opened it carefully, making sure the aliens could not see the screen. As he read the words, his face went very pale. His hand started to shake just a little bit. The message was short and clear. It came directly from President Lisa Carter herself. Protocol Omega is now active. All diplomatic relations end immediately. Return home at once. The time for pretending is over. Jake closed the device and looked around the table. The aliens were still talking about humans like they were not there. Counselor Zethkar was explaining to the others why humans needed protection from the dangerous galaxy. Another alien, this one covered in blue fur, was laughing about how cute human technology looked compared to real spaceships. Jake stood up slowly. The action was so sudden that all the aliens stopped talking and looked at him. In 3 years, Jake had never interrupted a meeting. He had never even spoken unless they asked him a direct question. "I have an announcement to make," Jake said in a clear, steady voice. Counselor Zethkar made a sound like a snort. "The human child wants to speak." "How amusing. Very well. Tell us what is on your small mind." Jake looked directly at each alien around the table. His expression was completely calm, which somehow made his next words more frightening. "Humanity withdraws from all diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council, effective immediately." The room went completely silent. Several aliens looked confused as if they had not heard him correctly. Others started to smile, thinking this was some kind of joke. "Furthermore," Jake continued, "all alien ambassadors currently in human space will be escorted to the nearest departure point within 24 hours. All communication channels between human worlds and alien civilizations are now closed. This council will receive no further contact from humanity." Jake picked up his small bag and walked toward the door. His footsteps echoed in the huge, silent room. Counselor Zethkar suddenly burst into laughter. It was a horrible sound, like metal being scraped against stone. "The children are having a tantrum," he announced to the other aliens. "How precious. They think they can survive without us." Other aliens joined in the laughter. The blue-furred one slapped the table with what might have been hands. "They will be back within a week begging for our protection." "Perhaps we should let them try," suggested Counselor Yila, though she sounded worried. It might teach them an important lesson about their place in the galaxy. But Jake was already gone. He walked through the station's hallways without looking back. Other aliens he passed stared at him with curiosity, but Jake ignored them all. He had a ship to catch and a long journey back to Earth ahead of him. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Lisa Carter was sitting in her office deep underground. The room was filled with screens showing star maps and communication channels. Her advisor, General Kevin Brooks, stood beside her desk looking very concerned. "Are you sure about this, Madam President?" Kevin asked. "We're cutting ourselves off from the entire galaxy. If the hostile species decide to attack us now, we'll be completely alone." Lisa signed the document in front of her with a steady hand. Executive Order 2387 officially ended all diplomatic contact with alien civilizations. It was the most drastic action any human government had ever taken. Sometimes you have to go dark before you can truly see, Lisa said quietly. The galaxy thinks we're weak children who need protection. It's time they learned the truth. Kevin frowned. What truth? We are outnumbered by millions to one. Some of these alien species have been traveling the stars for thousands of years. We've barely been out there for 50. Lisa smiled, but it was not a happy expression. That's what we wanted them to think. The pretending is over now, Kevin. Activate all the hidden protocols. It's time for humanity to wake up. Across human space, the orders went out. Every alien ambassador received the same polite but firm message. They had 24 hours to leave human territory. No exceptions would be made. The ambassadors were confused and angry, but human security forces gave them no choice. They were escorted to their ships and watched as they departed. Communication arrays that had carried messages between humans and aliens for decades suddenly went silent. The galaxy's youngest species had just disappeared from all diplomatic contact. The aliens thought it was temporary. They believed humans would come crawling back within days, desperate for the protection and trade that only the Galactic Council could provide. They had no idea how wrong they were. The countdown to their awakening had begun. 3 months had passed since Jake Morrison walked out of the council meeting. At first, the aliens had laughed about the human silence. They made jokes during their meetings about how long it would take for the children to come begging for help. But the laughter had stopped weeks ago. Councillor Zethkar stood in front of a huge star map in the council chambers. Red dots marked all the human colonies and space stations. Every single one of them had gone completely quiet. No messages, no trade requests, no calls for help. Nothing. This is becoming troublesome, admitted Councillor Yila. Her voice carried worry now instead of amusement. Our merchants report that human space stations still function normally. Ships can dock, fuel can be purchased, repairs can be made, but no humans are seen anywhere. The blue-furred alien Councillor Drek scratched his head with a claw. The automated systems are working perfectly. Too perfectly, if you ask me. It's like the humans just vanished, but left all their machines running. Other council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Korath Empire's representative, Admiral Vexthon, had been quiet for most of the meeting. His species was known for being aggressive and always looking for fights. Now he leaned forward with interest in his red eyes. Perhaps, Admiral Vexthon said slowly, we should investigate this silence more closely. The humans might be in trouble. They could be under attack by pirates, or maybe they all got sick from some disease. Councillor Zethkar nodded eagerly. Yes, that must be it. They're too proud to ask for help, so they're suffering in silence. We should send ships to check on them. It's our duty as the senior species. I volunteer my fleets for this humanitarian mission, Admiral Vexthon said with what looked like a smile. But anyone who knew the Korath could see the hunger in his expression. He had always wanted to control human space, with its convenient location and rich planets. The vote was quick. Most council members agreed that they should investigate the human silence. Only Councillor Yila seemed hesitant, but she was outvoted. Admiral Vexithon was given permission to take 3 probe fleets into human territory. The Korath Admiral wasted no time. Within days, his ships were moving toward the Alpha Centauri system, humanity's first colony outside Earth. Vexthon was confident this would be easy. Humans had always seemed weak and dependent on alien protection. Captain Mordak commanded the lead ship of the first probe fleet. He had fought humans before during border skirmishes and remembered them as decent fighters but nothing special. Their weapons were basic, their ships were slow, and they always seemed to be just barely keeping up with alien technology. Entering human space now, reported his navigation officer. Any response to our communications? Captain Mordak asked. Nothing, sir. Complete radio silence. The Korath ships moved deeper into the Alpha Centauri system. Captain Mordak expected to find damaged space stations or distress beacons. Maybe he would discover that pirates had attacked the human colonies, leaving them too weak to call for help. Instead, he found something impossible. Captain, His sensor officer called out in a shocked voice. "You need to see this." The main screen showed the Alpha Centauri system, but it looked nothing like the intelligence reports. Where there should have been a few small mining stations and a basic colony ship, the entire system had been transformed into a fortress. Massive orbital platforms surrounded every planet and moon. Each platform was the size of a small city and covered with weapon systems that Captain Mordak did not recognize. Energy readings showed power levels that should have been impossible for human technology to generate. "How many platforms are there?" Captain Mordak asked quietly. "Over 200, sir, and that's just what we can see. Our sensors are detecting some kind of jamming field that might be hiding more." A human ship approached them. It was huge, much larger than any human vessel in the intelligence files. The ship's name was painted on its side in simple letters, Canterbury. According to Korath records, the Canterbury was supposed to be a basic colony transport with no weapons. The ship that faced them now bristled with gun ports and energy projectors. Its hull seemed to shimmer with some kind of protective field, and its engines put out more power than most Korath battleships. A message came from the Canterbury. The voice was calm and polite, but there was something underneath it that made Captain Mordak's scales crawl with fear. "Korath vessels, you have entered human space without permission. You have 10 minutes to turn around and leave. This is your only warning." Captain Mordak was too shocked to be angry. "I demand to speak with human authorities. We are here on a humanitarian mission approved by the Galactic Council." The response was silence. The Canterbury just hung in space, waiting. Captain Mordak tried again. "We are here to help you. The Council is worried about your welfare. Please respond." Still nothing. The 10 minutes ticked by slowly. Captain Mordak began to think the humans were bluffing. One colony ship, even a heavily armed one, could not threaten 3 Korath destroyers. When the 10 minutes ended, the Canterbury opened fire. The energy beams that struck the Korath ships were unlike anything in their databases. The weapons did not just hit hard. They seemed to ignore the destroyer's shields completely. The first ship simply disappeared in a flash of light. The second lasted long enough for its captain to scream a warning before it was vaporized. Captain Mordak's ship was the only one left. His hull was damaged and his engines were failing, but he was still alive. The Canterbury could have destroyed him just as easily as the others, but it had chosen to let him survive. "Return to your council," the calm voice said. "Tell them that human space is closed to all alien vessels. Any future intrusions will be met with force." Captain Mordak did not argue. His damaged ship limped out of the system as fast as its broken engines could carry it. Back on the council station, the report from Captain Mordak caused panic. 2 entire destroyers had been destroyed by a single human colony ship. The weapon readings he provided showed technology that was decades ahead of anything the council possessed. Councillor Yila stood up during the emergency meeting, her usual calm completely gone. "What have we missed? How did humans develop this level of technology in secret?" Admiral Vexthon was furious and embarrassed. His powerful fleet had been crushed by one human ship, and the survivors' report made his species look weak. "This changes nothing," he declared. "They surprised us, that's all. Next time we'll be ready." But Councillor Zethkar was studying the sensor data with growing fear. "Look at these energy signatures," he said quietly. "This isn't just advanced human technology. These readings match some very old legends from our historical databases." "What kind of legends?" Councillor Yila asked. "Stories about the Builders," Zethkar said. "The ancient civilization that disappeared before any of our current species reached the stars. They were supposed to have technology that could reshape reality itself." The council chamber went very quiet. The Builders were supposed to be a myth, a story told to young aliens about the mysterious civilization that had vanished long ago. "If humans had somehow found their technology, we need more information," Councillor Yila said finally. "And we need it fast." But getting information about humans had suddenly become much more dangerous than anyone had expected. 6 months had passed since humans had cut off all contact with the galaxy. Captain Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, watching a group of pirates attack a peaceful merchant ship. The freighter was from the Merchants Guild, one of the more reasonable alien species on the council. Alex knew he should stay hidden. Orders from Earth were clear: no contact with aliens under any circumstances. But watching innocent people get killed had never been something humans could do easily. Captain, his first officer, Lieutenant Dan Cooper, said quietly, "We could help them and be gone before anyone knows we were here." Alex nodded. "All right, people. We break silence just this once. Let's make it quick and clean." The Phoenix dropped out of its hiding spot behind an asteroid and moved toward the pirate ships. The human vessel was sleek and beautiful, its hull a dark blue-black that seemed to absorb light. To anyone watching, it looked like a shadow moving through space. The pirates were too busy looting the merchant ship to notice the Phoenix at first. When they finally detected it, their leader laughed over the radio. "Look what we have here. A lost human ship far from home. This will be fun." 3 pirate vessels turned to attack the Phoenix. They were expecting an easy fight against primitive human technology. Instead, they discovered that everything they knew about humans was wrong. The Phoenix moved like nothing they had ever seen before. It seemed to slide through space rather than fly, changing direction in ways that should have been impossible. When the pirates fired their weapons, the energy beams bent around the human ship, as if it was not really there. "What kind of engines do they have?" one of the pirate captains screamed over the radio. The answer came in the form of weapons fire from the Phoenix. The beams that struck the pirate ships were pure white light that cut through armor like it was made of paper. 2 pirate vessels were disabled in seconds. The third tried to run, but the Phoenix caught it easily and destroyed its engines. Captain Alex Turner opened a communication channel to the merchant freighter. "This is the Phoenix. Are you hurt? Do you need medical assistance?" The alien captain of the freighter sounded shocked and grateful. "We are damaged but alive, thanks to you, but you are human, yes? We heard your species had withdrawn from all contact." "That's correct," Alex said. "This encounter never happened. You never saw us. Understood?" "Of course, Captain, but may I ask, how did your ship move like that? And your weapons?" Alex smiled grimly. "Let's just say humans have been keeping some secrets. Safe travels, Merchant Captain." The Phoenix disappeared back into the asteroid field, but the word spread quickly through alien communication networks. A single human ship had destroyed 3 pirate vessels with technology that seemed impossible. The descriptions of the fight made their way back to the Galactic Council within days. On the council station, Dr. Rebecca Walsh sat alone in her small quarters. She had been the human scientific representative to the galaxy, working with alien researchers on various projects. When the diplomatic silence began, she could have returned to Earth, but she chose to stay. The aliens thought she had been abandoned by her own species. They felt sorry for her and let her remain on the station as a kind of refugee. What they did not know was that Rebecca was still in contact with Earth through methods they could not detect. The door to her quarters chimed. Rebecca opened it to find Counselor Yila standing outside, looking worried and tired. "May I come in, Dr. Walsh?" the alien asked politely. Rebecca nodded and stepped aside. Yila entered and sat down heavily in one of the human-sized chairs Rebecca had been allowed to keep. "I need to ask you some questions," Yila said. "About your species. About what is really happening." Rebecca had been expecting this conversation for months. "What do you want to know?" "The truth," Yila said simply. "We just received reports about a human ship that fought off pirates near the Vega system. The descriptions of your technology, it doesn't match anything in our databases about human capabilities." Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. Then she made a decision that would change everything. "We're not from Earth," she said quietly. Yila blinked in confusion. "What do you mean?" "Humans are not native to Earth," Rebecca continued. "We found out the truth about 5 years ago, hidden in our genetic code, buried in ancient archaeological sites that we had never understood before. We are not the primitive species you think we are." "Then what are you?" Rebecca stood up and walked to her window, looking out at the stars. "We are the children of the Builders, the ancient civilization that your legends speak of." "They didn't disappear, Counselor Yila. They went to sleep." The alien's face went very pale. That's impossible. "Our ancestors seeded the galaxy with life billions of years ago," Rebecca continued. "They guided the first civilizations to the stars, helped them develop, watched them grow. When they felt the galaxy was ready to stand on its own, they chose to go dormant. They scattered themselves across thousands of worlds, including a small blue planet they called Earth. But the genetic studies, Yila protested weakly, were carefully hidden. Our true heritage was locked away in parts of our DNA that your scientists never thought to examine. The archaeological evidence was buried so deep that even we didn't find it until recently. Rebecca turned back to face the shocked alien. For 50 years, we've been playing the part of the grateful junior species, learning about you, studying your technology, watching how the galaxy developed without our ancestors' guidance. We needed to understand what kind of civilizations had emerged in our absence, and now the sleeping time is over. We've seen enough of the current galaxy to know that some things need to change. The strong still prey on the weak. Wars are fought over resources that should be shared. Species like the Korath Empire think might makes right. Yila was shaking now. So the withdrawal, the silence, we needed time to complete our awakening, to decide how to reveal ourselves without causing panic, though I suspect we may have caused that anyway. Colonel Ryan Murphy stepped out of the shadows near Rebecca's door. He had been there the entire time, invisible to alien sensors. Yila jumped in shock, not having detected his presence at all. The colonel has been monitoring council communications, Rebecca said calmly. We know about the probe fleets you've sent into our space. We know about the plans to force us back to the negotiating table. Ryan spoke for the first time, his voice carrying quiet authority. 3 more alien fleets have tried to enter human space since the Canterbury incident. None of them returned home. We've been patient so far, but that patience has limits. What do you want from us? Yila asked in a very small voice. Rebecca smiled, but it was not entirely friendly. That depends on what the council decides to do next. We're watching, Counselor. We're always watching. The question is, will the galaxy accept the truth about what humanity really is? Or will you force us to remind you why our ancestors were called the Builders? Outside the window, the stars seemed to twinkle a little differently, as if they were waking up after a very long sleep. The age of pretending was almost over. 8 months after the Great Silence began, the Galactic Council was in complete panic. The emergency session had been going on for 6 hours, and the aliens were no closer to a solution than when they started. Counselor Zethkar paced back and forth in front of the star map. 3 more alien fleets had vanished trying to probe human space. Not destroyed, not defeated, simply gone as if they had never existed at all. Long-range sensors showed massive construction projects in human systems, but the energy signatures made no sense. The readings are impossible, declared Chief Science Officer Kralvin, a spider-like alien from the Technical Guild. The power output we're detecting would require the energy of entire stars. No known technology can harness that much power. Admiral Vexthon slammed his fist on the table. His pride had been wounded by the loss of his probe fleets, and he wanted revenge. Enough speculation. We need action. I propose a full military response. Every species, every ship we can gather. Are you insane? Counselor Yila shot back. We've already lost 5 fleets. How many more ships do you want to throw away? They cannot fight all of us at once, Vexthon insisted. Whatever technology they have, it must have limits. We overwhelm them with numbers. Counselor Drex, the blue-furred alien, scratched his chin thoughtfully. The humans have 37 star systems under their control. Even with their new technology, they cannot defend all of them at the same time. Other council members began to nod. The logic seemed sound. Humanity might have superior individual ships, but they were still vastly outnumbered. A coordinated attack by all 12 species would surely succeed where smaller fleets had failed. Only Counselor Yila seemed uncertain. Dr. Walsh warned us that humanity's patience has limits. Maybe we should try to negotiate instead of fighting. The time for talk is over, Admiral Vexthon declared. They chose silence. Now they get war. The vote was close, but the war faction won. Within hours, orders went out to every species in the council. All available military vessels were to gather at Rally Point 7, just outside the edge of human space. It would be the largest fleet in galactic history. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Lisa Carter stood in the deep underground facility known as Command Central. The room was filled with screens showing star charts, fleet movements, and energy readings from across the galaxy. General Kevin Brooks stood beside her looking worried. The alien armada is massive, Kevin reported. Over 800 ships from 12 different species. It's the largest military force the galaxy has seen in centuries. Lisa nodded calmly. Expected. The council species were always predictable. They see a problem, they throw ships at it. Ma'am, we're still outnumbered almost 20 to 1. Are you sure our awakened technology is enough to handle that many ships? Lisa turned to another figure in the room. Director Nathan Cross ran Human Intelligence, the organization that had been secretly monitoring alien communications for decades. He was a thin man with gray hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. Director Cross, what's the status of our deep surveillance? Lisa asked. Amy Chen has been monitoring all council communications, Nathan reported. The Hybrid Consciousness Project is working perfectly. She's intercepted battle plans, fleet coordinates, and private conversations between council leaders. Amy Chen was humanity's greatest secret. She had volunteered to become the first successful fusion of human consciousness with artificial intelligence. Her mind now existed in quantum computers throughout human space, able to process information and monitor communications at impossible speeds. Amy's voice came from speakers around the room. It sounded human but carried harmonics that no natural voice could produce. Several council species are planning to use this crisis to eliminate human colonies entirely. The Korath Empire wants our resource-rich worlds. The hegemony sees us as a threat to their trade monopolies. This isn't just about forcing us back to negotiations anymore. President Carter's expression hardened. Then it's time for Protocol Omega. No more hiding, no more pretending. If they want to see what humanity really is, we'll show them. She turned to a secure console and entered her authorization codes. All units, this is Omega Command. Implement full awakening protocols. Ancient installations are now active. The sleeping time is over. Across human space, things that had been buried for millions of years began to wake up. On dozens of worlds, structures that predated all current galactic civilizations started to power up. The energy signatures were beyond anything the current galaxy had ever seen. Commander Lucas Stone watched from his post at the Proxima Centauri defense grid. The installation looked like a simple asteroid mining platform from the outside, but that was just camouflage. Deep inside the asteroid, technology older than the current galactic civilization was coming online. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're getting reports from all human systems. The ancient tech is fully operational. Lucas nodded grimly. Then may the builders forgive us for what comes next. At Rally Point 7, Admiral Vexton stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at the assembled armada. Ships from 12 species floated in perfect formation, sleek Ashanti cruisers, massive Korath dreadnoughts, swarm formations of smaller vessels from the Insectoid Hive Collective. It was beautiful and terrible, a force that could conquer solar systems. All ships report ready, Admiral, his communications officer announced. Begin the advance, Vexton ordered. Today we remind the galaxy that the Council's will cannot be ignored. The Armada moved forward in perfect coordination. Each species had contributed their best ships and most experienced crews. The plan was simple. Overwhelm human defenses through sheer numbers, occupy their key systems, and force their leaders to surrender. As they crossed into human space, sensor operators reported something strange. Space itself seemed different here, as if reality was subtly changed. Energy readings were off the charts, but they could not locate the source. Then the human fleet appeared. They came not from planets or space stations, but from what looked like tiers in space itself. The ships that emerged were unlike anything in the galaxy's databases. They were beautiful and terrifying, with hulls that seemed to be made of crystallized starlight and weapons that bent the laws of physics. Count them, Admiral Vexton ordered, his voice tight with sudden fear. Sir, we're detecting approximately 400 human vessels. Vexton felt relief. The aliens still had the numbers advantage. Open communications. Demand their surrender. But before he could speak, another voice filled the communication channels. It was clearly human, but it carried harmonics that made the alien crews feel dizzy and confused. The voice belonged to someone who was more than human now. I am Admiral Patricia Hayes, commanding the Human Defense Fleet, speaking through the hybrid consciousness Gaia. To the assembled alien forces, you trespass in the domain of the architects. Turn back now or face the consequences of your aggression. Admiral Vexton sneered. I am Admiral Vexton of the Galactic Council Armada. You are vastly outnumbered. Surrender now and your colonies will be spared. The response came not in words, but in a demonstration of power that changed everything. The human ships simply stopped being where they were and appeared elsewhere, moving through space in ways that violated every law of physics the aliens knew. Their weapons created tears in space-time itself, and their shields seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. The Council Armada found itself completely immobilized. Every single ship, from the largest dreadnought to the smallest fighter, was held motionless by fields of energy that came from nowhere and everywhere at once. "Now you begin to understand," the merged voice of Admiral Hayes and Gaia announced. "Humanity is not what you believed us to be. We are the children of those who built this galaxy, who seeded it with life, who guided its first civilizations to the stars. We have been sleeping, but now we wake." In the silence that followed, 800 alien crews finally understood what they were really facing. The galaxy's youngest species had just revealed themselves to be its oldest and most powerful. The age of council dominance was ending, and something far greater was taking its place. The real conversation was about to begin. The Council Armada hung motionless in space, 800 ships held in place by power they could not understand. Admiral Vexton tried everything: emergency thrust, weapon systems, even the escape pods, but nothing worked. His mighty dreadnought was as helpless as a leaf in a hurricane. "What have they done to us?" he whispered, staring out at the human fleet. The alien ships looked normal enough, but space around them seemed to bend and twist in ways that hurt to look at. The merged voice of Admiral Patricia Hayes and the AI entity Gaia filled every communication channel in the Armada. When they spoke, reality itself seemed to listen. "You came here expecting to find primitive humans hiding behind basic technology. Instead, you have discovered the inheritors of the architects." On his bridge, Admiral Vexton felt something he had not experienced in decades of warfare: pure terror. "The architects are myths," he said, but his voice shook. "Ancient stories told to children." "The myths were truth carefully disguised as legend," the voice replied. "Your species found ruins on dead worlds and created stories about the vanished builders. You discovered technology beyond your understanding and called it impossible. You never suspected that the builders had not vanished at all. They had simply chosen to sleep." Captain Danny Rodriguez stepped forward from the human fleet. His ship, the Starfire, looked small compared to the alien dreadnoughts, but energy readings from its hull showed power levels that made the biggest Council warships look like toys. "Let me explain what really happened," Danny said, his voice calm but carrying absolute authority. "Billions of years ago, our ancestors spread life throughout this galaxy. They guided primitive species to intelligence, helped civilizations reach the stars, watched over the development of entire cultures." "Impossible," Admiral Vexathon protested weakly. "Humans have only been spacefaring for 50 years. "That's what we wanted you to believe," Danny continued. "When our ancestors felt the galaxy was ready to stand on its own, they chose to go dormant. They scattered themselves across thousands of worlds, encoding their knowledge in genetic patterns that would activate when the time was right." The truth hit the alien fleet like a physical blow. Every species in the Council had legends about finding ancient ruins, discovering impossible technology, being guided by mysterious forces in their early development. They had never connected these stories to the arrival of humans 50 years ago. Amy Chen's hybrid consciousness spoke through quantum communications that bypassed all known technology. "We have been watching you for 50 years, learning how the galaxy developed without our ancestors' direct guidance. We needed to understand what you had become." Counselor Yila's voice came through the communication channels. She was aboard one of the Ashanti cruisers, her usual calm completely shattered. "What did you find? What did you think of us?" There was sadness in the merged voice that answered her. "We found a galaxy that had grown strong but had forgotten wisdom. Species that conquered instead of building. Civilizations that fought over resources that should be shared freely. We saw the Korath Empire enslaving weaker species, the hegemony controlling trade through force, the technical guild hoarding knowledge that could help everyone." Admiral Patricia Hayes spoke more directly now, her human emotions coming through despite the AI enhancement. "We also found beauty, the Ashanti's dedication to peace, the Merchants Guild's fair dealing, species that tried to build rather than destroy. The galaxy is not lost, but it needs guidance. And if we refuse?" Admiral Vexthon demanded, though his position hardly allowed for defiance. The demonstration that followed was gentle but absolutely terrifying. One of the Korath destroyers simply ceased to exist for exactly 10 seconds. It did not explode or disappear. It was temporarily removed from reality itself. When it returned, the crew was unharmed but completely changed. They had experienced nothingness, and the memory would haunt them forever. We do not wish to rule through fear, the merged voice explained. But we will not allow the galaxy to slide into darkness. Too many species have suffered under the current system. Too many civilizations have been destroyed by those who mistake strength for righteousness. President Lisa Carter's voice joined the conversation, transmitted from Earth through technology that made every alien sensor array look like a child's toy. The Galactic Council as it exists today is finished. Humanity takes its place as the acknowledged inheritors of the architects. But we do not seek to dominate you. What do you seek? Counselor Yila asked quietly. Partnership, Lisa replied. Guidance for those who want it, protection for those who need it, justice for those who have been wronged. The galaxy our ancestors envisioned was not one species ruling others, but all species working together toward something greater. Commander Lucas Stone spoke from his position at the Proxima Centauri grid. Every technological advancement your species have made, every scientific breakthrough, every step toward the stars, it happened because ancient systems left by the architects guided your development. You think you evolved independently, but you were never alone. The implications hit the alien fleet like a tsunami. Everything they thought they knew about their own history was wrong. Their proudest achievements had been subtly guided by sleeping systems they had never detected. Director Nathan Cross provided the final revelation. The threats coming from beyond the galactic rim are real. Our long-range sensors have detected them for months. Hostile civilizations that consume entire galaxies are heading this way. The current council system cannot handle what is coming, but humanity can? Admiral Vex then asked. Humanity plus all willing species guided by architect technology and united in purpose can, Danny Rodriguez answered. Alone you will all fall. Together we can face anything the universe sends against us. The choice was presented clearly. Accept humanity's revealed nature as the inheritors of the architects and work together as equals in a new galactic order, or face the coming darkness divided and weak. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. Even Admiral Vexthon, his pride broken but his survival instincts intact, agreed to the new arrangement. The immobilization fields released the alien ships, but none of them tried to flee. They finally understood what they were really facing. As the combined human-alien fleet began planning for threats that would come from beyond the stars, a new age began. The galaxy's pretend children had revealed themselves as its ancient guardians, and the real work of building a civilization worthy of the architects could finally begin. The age of hiding was over. The age of growth had begun, and in the depths of space, ancient systems that had slept for millions of years hummed with quiet satisfaction. The children had finally grown up and they were ready to face whatever came next. The galaxy would never be the same, but for the first time in eons, it had hope.